Hello, today I'm talking to you about how I lived on $300 a month. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be notified when we put up new videos. All right, guys, as some of you know, I got sick with chronic fatigue syndrome and then fibromyalgia when I was 16. Started feeling better, was able to finish high school, but then when I was 18 and went to Europe, I got really sick, couldn't get out of bed, had to come home. Back then, in the early 90s, the doctors really didn't know what was going on. I did go to the doctor and she said, well, we have this new disease called fibromyalgia that I think you have also. I can give you some antidepressants and that's what helps with that. They put me on antidepressants. I gained a huge amount of weight and I was even sicker. So I had to move out because I had applied for disability. I had tried to work, just could not. I was too sick to get out of bed, really. I would get up, putter around for 3 to 5 minutes, and then have to go lay down and rest. That's pretty much what I did all day long. I would get up, go do a few dishes, and lay back down, get up, get dressed, go lay back down, put on my makeup, lay back down. That was the way my whole routine was. And I finally had to move out so that my disability, if I got on, would not interfere with my mom's SSI and be counted as her income. She was only getting $500 a month at the time. So I moved out to southeastern Colorado, lived in my great-grandparents' house that they had. It was a rental house, a missionary house. They would use it to let missionaries stay in when they came home on furlough. And it was empty, so they told me I could stay there. I ended up paying them $100 a month for my rent. I was trying to make amends with my dad's side of the family. I really never had a problem with my great-grandparents, but had issues with my grandparents. And so I was trying to make amends, moved back there to try and do that and to kind of get out on my own and to get my Colorado residency because I figured I would be getting better soon. And so I wanted to be living in Colorado so that when I was better, I could go to school and get my degree in horticulture like I had planned. So I moved to southeastern Colorado and I paid my great-grandparents $100 a month rent so that I wouldn't just be mooching off of them. So I paid them $100 rent. That included my water, I was on a well, my septic, and my heat and electricity. So all of my utilities and my housing cost was in there. I did not have a trash because trash service didn't come out there, so I just burned my trash. But it did include all of my utilities. Now, it was a super tiny house, but it was the cutest little house ever. Loved my little house on the prairie. And it was really good. It was a little 2-bedroom house, had a nice little living room. It had been added on to a couple of times. And it was just a sweet little house. I really liked it. I did have a washing machine that my uncle who fixed washing machines gave me, but I did not have a dryer. So I had to hang all my clothes on the clothesline or in the house in the winter. I hung them on racks. So that covered all my housing, my utilities. Now for food, I spent about $50 a month on food. It was just me. There was 2 very small grocery stores. Nowadays, they would be equivalent to the size of a Family Dollar, Dollar General. They were really tiny grocery stores in town. That's where I got most of my groceries. So I spent $50 a month on groceries. My little Volkswagen was $20 a month for insurance and about $10 a month for gas because I was so sick, I just never hardly went anywhere. So I didn't have to pay a whole lot in gas. Then I had to pay for my clothes and my glasses, anything else over that I had to pay for. I did pay my tithe every month. Back then we didn't have the internet, so it's not like now where if you're not going to church, you can watch church online. But I did give my tithe to different places that were helping people, different churches that were helping, that kind of thing. So $30 a month went tithing to my church. So that's, let's see, 150, 80, 90, 100. So that left me about $100 a month for haircuts, glasses, eye appointments, all those kinds of things. I was on Medicaid, so all of my doctor's appointments were covered until I could get on disability and got Medicare. Now, what did I live on until I got the disability? So I lived on about $200 to $250 a month. I had savings from when I was in high school. I was working about 40 hours a week. And this is probably why I got sick again. I got sick initially, started feeling better. My mom and my brother didn't, but this is probably why I got sick again, because in high school, I was involved in all of the singing groups there was, madrigals, choir, all that. I was involved in all that. I was a straight A student, and I was working 30 to 35 hours a week. So I had a good amount of savings, even after I spent a big chunk going to Sweden. I did have a large amount of savings left, a few $1,000s, it was probably around $2,000 left that I was living on until I could get on disability. Now, I applied for disability. I was denied. I was applied again, or appealed it, was denied, appealed it again, was denied, got a lawyer and appealed it again, got a hearing, and the judge was like, okay, it's obvious she can't work. She can hardly sit up here. It was bad. And he granted me disability, which was around $300 a month. My lawyer said she'd never seen anything like it. She said she'd never seen a 19-year-old get on disability that wasn't a quadriplegic and blind. So it was truly a miracle that I got on, and I truly needed it because I couldn't function. So I lived on that $300 a month for, let's see, it was 3 years until I got married, I think. But I did try to work. There was a flower shop in town, and I would work like 5 or 6 hours a week. You can do that when you're on disability. Everybody says, you can't work when you're on disability. Yes, you can. You have to report it to Social Security, and I did. But you can work while you're on disability. So I kept trying to work, and I would work for a little bit, and it would just be too much. So I'd have to stop. So I filled in at the flower shop when they needed someone. Just a couple of hours a week here and there. I was getting like $4 an hour. So it wasn't much at all. But that's pretty much how I lived. I bought all of my clothes at thrift stores. Well, garage sales mostly. There wasn't any thrift stores in the town that I lived in, so it was mostly garage sales. I paid for all of my car repairs out of that. My phone, I did have to pay for my phone, and back then you were charged by the minute. So I would call and make sure that I always had 10 cents a minute or less calling, and I'd switch my phone service every 6 months with a new deal. And I called Mom a lot. I was lonely. I was by myself on the prairie. I had cousins that I kind of was able to be friends with, and I did have, a really good friend there. But my grandparents, I still wasn't getting along with my grandparents very well. It was hard. There would be times when I would have no water because my well would freeze. There would be times when I would be snowed in, stuck in my house because really bad snow drifts, no way to get out until either my grandfather would come and plow me out, and I was at the bottom of the list for him for that. So usually it was, a day or two before he would plow me out at least. And then my little Volkswagen, even though it did good in the snow, I really had a hard time driving in the snow, so I didn't do that too much. But I just made do with what I had. I didn't waste food. I bought everything I could use. I mean, everything, my couch, my curtains I made myself, everything was used. And that's one of the ways I survived. You know, back then we didn't have Starbucks, that kind of thing. So I never had Starbucks, never got manicures, only got a haircut like once a year or so. So I really cut back on everything just to survive. And quite frankly, I was never afraid. This is one thing people keep saying, oh, I'm so afraid I'm not going to be able to make it. I was never afraid. I guess because I had grown up with a mom raising two kids on two teenagers on $500 a month. It's just what you did to get by. I didn't think about being afraid. Even when I had weirdo guys stalking me, I wasn't really afraid. I mean, it was a little weird, and I was like, okay, dude, leave me alone. But I wasn't afraid. And I think that's one thing that people let themselves get into, is this spirit of fear. And you have got to stop living in a spirit of fear. If you are a Christian, God promises that He is going to take care of us, because if you're a Christian, you are a child of God. If you're not a Christian, you're not a child of God. You're a creation of God, but you're not a child of God. And so He has promised that He's going to take care of His children. And so I just always knew that when I needed something, He would take care of me. So that was my budget for when I was living on my own little house on the prairie by myself. That was my budget of what I spent and how I got by on $300 a month. I actually did it and lived to tell about it. One thing I would like to say is, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's just not possible now. That was 25 years ago or 30 years ago. There's just no possible way that I could do that now. Actually, you can. There are a lot of different ways you can do it. For me, I rented my grandparents' house, my great-grandparents' house, for $100 a month. But do you know of someone who's got a vacation house or something like that that they might rent to you? Could you get a roommate or 2 or 3 or 4? Rent a roommate. Could you rent a basement somewhere? Could you rent a garage and turn it into a little apartment somewhere? So think outside the box. Could you get a little van or something like that? When I got my disability money, I got a better car, a little Geo Metro. But if I didn't have a place to live, could I have spent that $3,000 getting me a van to live in, like a little mobile tiny house? So get creative and think outside the box and think, what can I do, instead of always whining about how you just can't do it. There are solutions, but you have to figure out a way. And if you are a Christian, you need to pray and ask God to provide for you and to show you what to do, because He will take care of you. And by the way, if you are in that situation and you do not have a Bible, we have free Bibles for anyone who cannot afford it. Go to livingonadime.com, click on the shop, and then click on Bibles on the left-hand side. We have a code, a coupon code that you can put in to get a free Bible if you cannot afford one. If you can't afford one, they're $9.50, just our cost. But guys, read your Bible and pray and ask God to provide for your needs, because He will do that for you. All right, guys, I hope that gives you some tips. I will see you guys next time. livingonadime.com